Out of your vulnerabilities will come your strength. Before you diagnose yourself with depression or low self-esteem, first make sure that you are not, in fact, just surrounded by assholes. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. From error to error, one discovers the entire truth. Who lacks sex speaks about sex, hungry talks about food, a person who has no money about money, and our oligarchs and bankers talk about morality. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. A man should not strive to eliminate his complexes, but to get into accord with them. They are legitimately what directs his conduct in the world. Just as no one can be forced into belief, so no one can be forced into unbelief. The virtuous man contents himself with dreaming that which the wicked man does in actual life. The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. Ultimately, after endless rebuffs, it succeeds. This is one of the few points in which one may be optimistic about the future of mankind. The only person with whom you have to compare yourself is you in the past. The mind is like an iceberg, it floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. Thought is action and rehearsal. Friendship is an art of keeping distance, while love is an art of intimacy. In the small matters trust the mind, in the large ones the heart. A layman will no doubt find it hard to understand how pathological disorders of the body and mind can be eliminated by mere words. He will feel that he is being asked to believe in magic. Time spent with cats is never wasted. People do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. The first human who hurled an insult instead of a stone was the founder of civilization. The more perfect a person is on the outside, the more demons they have on the inside. The ego is not master in its own house. Love and work, work and love, that's all there is. The conscious mind may be compared to a fountain playing in the sun and falling back into the great subterranean pool of subconscious from which it rises. Public self is a conditioned construct of the inner psychological self. We are what we are because we have been what we have been, and what is needed for solving the problems of human life and motives is not moral estimates but more knowledge. A woman should soften but not weaken a man. Religious doctrines are all illusions, they do not admit of proof, and no one can be compelled to consider them as true or to believe in them. It is impossible to escape the impression that people commonly use false standards of measurement, that they seek power, success, and wealth for themselves and admire them in others, and that they underestimate what is of true value in life. In the depths of my heart I can't help being convinced that my dear fellow men, with a few exceptions, are worthless. Immorality, no less than morality, has at all times found support in religion. Words have a magical power. They can bring either the greatest happiness or deepest despair. They can transfer knowledge from teacher to student. Words enable the orator to sway his audience and dictate its decisions. Words are capable of arousing the strongest emotions and prompting all men's actions. Human beings are funny. They long to be with the person they love but refuse to admit openly. Some are afraid to show even the slightest sign of affection because of fear. Fear that their feelings may not be recognized, or even worse, returned. But one thing about human beings puzzles me the most is their conscious effort to be connected with the object of their affection even if it kills them slowly within. Religion is a system of wishful illusions together with a disavowal of reality, such as we find nowhere else but in a state of blissful hallucinatory confusion. Religion's 11th commandment is "Thou shalt not question." The behavior of a human being in sexual matters is often a prototype for the whole of his other modes of reaction in life. Beauty has no obvious use, nor is there any clear cultural necessity for it. Yet civilization could not do without it. The intention that man should be happy is not in the plan of creation. Men are more moral than they think and far more immoral than they can imagine. The more the fruits of knowledge become accessible to men, the more widespread is the decline of religious belief. A man should not strive to eliminate his complexes, but to get into accord with them. They are legitimately what directs his conduct in the world. There are no mistakes. It is a predisposition of human nature to consider an unpleasant idea untrue, and then it is easy to find arguments against it. It is impossible to overlook the extent to which civilization is built up upon a renunciation of instinct. Everyone owes nature a death. We have learned, for example, that the more virtuous a man is, the more severe is his superego, and that he blames himself for misfortunes for which he is clearly not responsible. Nothing that is mentally our own can ever be lost. The first indication of stupidity is a complete lack of shame. In many criminals, especially youthful ones, it is possible to detect a very powerful sense of guilt which existed before the crime, and is therefore not its result but its motive. It is as if it was a relief to be able to fasten this unconscious sense of guilt onto something real and immediate. Neurosis is no excuse for bad manners. When one does not have what one wants, one must want what one has. Only a rebuke that has something in it will sting, will have the power to stir our feelings, not the other sort, as we know. For there is a way back from imagination to reality, and that is art. The scope of one's personality is defined by the magnitude of that problem which is capable of driving a person out of his wits. An inability to meet the real demands of love is one of the essential characteristics of neurosis. The patients are dominated by the opposition of reality and fantasy. They will flee from what they long for most intensely in their fantasies if they encounter it in real life, and they are most likely to abandon themselves to fantasies when they no longer need to fear their realization. Dogs love their friends and bite their enemies, quite unlike people, who are incapable of pure love and always have to mix love and hate. What a distressing contrast there is between the radiant intelligence of the child and the feeble mentality of the average adult. Dreams are often most profound when they seem the most crazy. Children are completely egoistic. They feel their needs intensely and strive ruthlessly to satisfy them. The doctor should be opaque to his patients and, like a mirror, should show them nothing but what is shown to him. If a man has been his mother's undisputed darling, he retains throughout life the triumphant feeling, the confidence in success, which not seldom brings actual success along with it. I have found little that is good about human beings on the whole. In my experience, most of them are trash, no matter whether they publicly subscribe to this or that ethical doctrine or to none at all. That is something that you cannot say aloud, or perhaps even think. Check out this video about life-changing quotes from Carl Jung. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.